So I think the first things first, we're going to start, and maybe we'll start with a fun fact. And with these ladies, they're super powerhouses themselves. They could be with any brand. So fun fact and why you're with 72 and Sunny.
Awesome. Fun fact, I originally went to college to be a high school choir director. Definitely never did that. But my brother found it. That was the passion he was supposed to pursue. So I think that was the reason I did that first. But why I'm at 72 and Sunny, when I interviewed there, it was all about the humans. The humans at 72 and Sunny are amazing. And though I had worked at many other agencies before, in my 21 years of advertising, I just really connected with this agency in ways that I hadn't yet in my career. And now I got promoted, since I've been there 7 months ago, I got promoted into my job, and it's the best job I never knew I ever wanted. So that's why I'm here.
Kate?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having us. My fun fact and why I'm in my job are kind of the same thing. I literally have the best job in the world. I like to say that I am the CMO for Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Visitors and Convention Authority, we exist to market the destination. We have 150,000 room nights, and we need to fill it every single night. And so I get the incredible job of talking about all the exciting things that are going on in Las Vegas, and it's a place everybody wants to go to. So it is literally my dream job.
Awesome. Thank you. Lara?
I don't know if my fun fact is not as good as Laura's, but so I'll just go into why I would only want to ever work for the Kansas City Chiefs. No offense, Kat. But no, I mean, obviously getting to be here and play this weekend is a dream come true for us. To get to work with the organization now for almost 2 years is a dream of mine. To get to work with the family that owns it is unbelievable. So I mean, that's pretty much my fun fact. I married a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so I feel as though he owes me a lot in life as well. But no, it's awesome. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you, Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat Frederick. Formerly, I was at Live Nation. I really thought that stealing Skittles out of Taylor Swift's green room was the height of my professional career. And just like this, my first season at the Rams, I took home a ring with an incredible, incredible fairy tale story, and so couldn't be more grateful. I think, really excited to be passing that torch over to Lara.
Love that. So my fun fact, other than being a C-suite crasher, because our CMO unfortunately got laryngitis and couldn't make it, is that I thought, would I ever have a fun fact related to football? And I looked in my memory, and actually my other half, his niece, is married to Randall Cobb, the Green Bay Packers. So that gives me some kind of connection to football. So with all that great stuff, let's kind of go to our first questions. So consumers' expectation has changed dramatically. They really want personalization even when you don't know them. So for the panel, and I'll start with Kat, how have fan expectations changed?
Yeah, I think it's important to approach it that there is no monolithic fan, right? And in a market like LA that has so much expansive diversity, as well as, a true war for attention, I think you have to think about how you break through. And I think fan expectations move at the pace of technology. And so a lot of the ways that we think about fan development is very multifaceted, where you could be using things like the brand new snap lenses in our stadium to ensure that you put cry faces on Broncos fans on Christmas Day, or be able to have a snowball fight in the middle of SoFi Stadium, leveraging around technology. And so when we think about the ways that we serve our fans, it really needs to be serving up a portfolio of offerings and letting your fans choose their own destination.
Got it. So Lara, same question to you, but also I want to know, kind of what kind of data you're using to kind of get to that. Like, what is the next experience they want, and how do you micro-segment it or whatnot? So,
absolutely. I think a lot of, like Kat said, I think, there is no one-size-fits-all in fans. And coming from the CPG world before I joined the Kansas City Chiefs, I think in the beer world, you wanted to know everything about fandom and about consumerism because loyalty was not as unique as it is within sports world. At the end of the day, though, fans are really just looking for connection. They're looking for something, a community to be part of. And so what we've tried to do now at the Chiefs is certainly look further into the data, not just who they are and their age and some of those pieces of the demographics, but really what's motivating them, what brought them into being a fan originally. What we found so much is around nostalgia, the generational fandom that is coming from parents. And in a world where, many people aren't growing up or aren't saying where they grow up, right? We can't only attach it to, being from Kansas City and have gone to our stadium and gone to a game. So it's really starting to understand what motivates them, what inspires them, what brought them in, right? Our players are obviously heroes, but there's a lot of different ways. And so really trying to get into that to ultimately still provide them a deep connection. It might just not look exactly like it used to in the past.
Makes sense. Another interesting data point that I heard during the conference here, John with Fanatics, we were having dinner, and he mentioned that their sales during COVID, when there was no sports, increased by 35%. So people have this need to kind of wear the gear, show their support, and kind of have that sense of connection and community. So Kate, I actually want to pass it to you as well, because you have a way, with Vegas too, with what they're expecting.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about us is we don't have a built-in permanent fan base. We have this evolving, rotating door of visitors coming in to the tune of 42 million annually. And so we are constantly trying to figure out who's coming, why they're coming, and how do we meet their expectations. Not really a sports example, but what comes to mind for me in terms of using data is social listening, diving in and understanding. We had BTS last summer doing 2 back-to-back concerts. BTS, huge global K-pop, massive brand. Anyways, we had them 2 back-to-back concerts, and the fans were telling us what they wanted. They were telling us what they wanted, how they, how they wanted to be served, what their expectation was for the destination, how they wanted to be treated, and all it came down to was listening to them online. So much so that we found out that they love purple. We actually took from a fan this phrase, Borhegus. They created a word that is in their language. I purple you, but I purple Vegas. And we took that and ran with it. We actually turned all of our marquees purple the first night of the concert. We published the word Borhegus with the purple heart on every single marquee in town. The fans went nuts. We had the fastest growth of our social channels because of that, because we showed we were listening and we delivered on their expectations, to the tune of they started calling out other cities where their band was going to perform, the fans did, to say, look what Vegas did. Vegas is now like setting the bar. So that was awesome. And so again, I guess wrapping it up, it's about listening to the fans, understanding their expectations, and finding ways to deliver on it.
Awesome, thank you for that. So our next question, content plays a critical role in entertainment marketing. When it comes to sports content, there's a standard template, a lot of legacy and history and traditions with the highlight reels and all that good stuff. But as audiences are evolving, how do you think about reinventing content that differentiates the brand? And Lara, I want to pass it to you.
Sure. First of all, people aren't necessarily seeking out your content. I mean, I think when you work with the NFL like we do, when we work with the Rams like we do, you at least have a built-in fan base. Not all brands have that, so that's a luxury. But to your point, Shiva, the hype plays, the hits, the wins, they all get people excited. But we're also talking about trying to connect with the players themselves, getting to know them as humans as well, getting to know them with their helmets off, like the NFL has talked a lot about. And I won't talk about Kat, because I know you'll talk about the unique LA spin, but also making sure that people see brands that might have shared values with them.
Good one. Lara, how about for you from content?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a lot about this. I think we have, as Laura just said, we have 10 million built-in fans right across all of our social channels, which is a lot. But what we realized as we were just talking through, not all fans' avidity levels are the same, right? And so there's a lot of people that are fans of the Chiefs or could become fans of the Chiefs, but they may choose not to follow us on one of our social channels, and how we traditionally speak to them had to evolve. So an example, even we played on Christmas Eve, right? We wanted to lean into it. We actually created, using one of our local influencers, Tech9, he's a rapper, he created a Christmas Eve Chiefs anthem. We did things with it that we wouldn't traditionally do, right? It wasn't just for our core avid fans. It was trying to reach a much larger audience. And so we've had to adapt our internal teams as well as the partners that we work with to sometimes have others create content for us, which seems so normal nowadays, but it's not been always something that, at least in our instance, the club was doing. But for us to reach a really wide audience and hopefully a global audience, we're going to have to be much smarter around who our consumers are, where they are, and also what they like. And it's not only about what we want to only push out.
Makes sense. Kat, anything you would add from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always joke that if I do my job really well, and only 1% of my audience will ever come into my stadium, right? As we build a global brand, reaching a fan in China, reaching a fan in Australia, it requires a mindset of making sure that across all of our values, that we're putting out content that represents who we are. That means we need to really understand the language of who we are. As Laura mentioned, we are working very closely with 72 to redefine and really codify the language of that. And in LA, I think we have historically seen incredible championship teams, but we see so many of them rest on that championship. And so being able to take and leverage content to redefine what a modern sports team in our market really means, I think is a really novel luxury for the brand, and one that we're so excited. We telling really deep stories about pioneering firsts for Black history, or talking about, how our Walter Payton Man of the Year gave back and really refurbished, school fields. Like, these are important stories to who we are, and we're proud to tell them. And so I think it has allowed us to organically continue to build in a market in which we're more recently back in the market. And so we don't have that continuous heritage to rely on.
Makes sense. Thanks. So beyond competitive sports team, NFL teams are brands unto themselves. How do your brands transcend beyond any individual player, owner, or city? So if any individual component changes, the brand continues to thrive. And then how do your brands need to redefine themselves for the modern fans as you're kind of trying to not to be fully aligned to players, owners, and cities, even though they are the pillars? So Kat, maybe I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to start, and I'm sure you have a lot to share as well. But it is being cognizant that fandom is built at all of those levels. I mean, the greatest window for fandom, for lifetime fandom, is 8 to 11. And so there's only so many avenues that you can legally get to an 8 to an 11-year-old. And so, I think a lot of it is being in the community, but also making sure that you are tailoring content for that audience and really allowing the different facets of that brand to come to life. And so really, continuing to widen the aperture. And as 72 likes to say, aperture wide, but values very tight. And that's, I think, really helps to codify who we are.
I love that. Aperture wide.
Values very tight.
Values very tight. I think that's definitely like something we're going to hashtag. Lara, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll now take that new hashtag motto. I think different from the Rams in many ways, the Chiefs have obviously such a deep heritage in Kansas City, and obviously Lamar Hunt, our founder and CEO, I mean, was such a pillar in creating so much of the National Football League and, the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl. And so the beauty of that is that we do have that heritage, we have that legacy, we have those stories that are many, many years deep in that authenticity and generational. The balance now is when you become, and our ambitions of becoming a world's team, and we have, Coach Reed, and we have Patrick Mahomes, and we have obviously a Super Bowl stage to set on this weekend. The balance becomes, how do you make sure that we are true and authentic to who we are, but can lean into a modern approach on how it comes to life, right? And that balance between not becoming someone else. And I feel like when I first met you, you had originally said, like, winning is not a strategy. It's a strategy for football, which is awesome. But, if in 20 years our team structure looks different, I want kids and parents all over the world still buying Chiefs jerseys, and I want them all over the world following our channels. And so I think that balance has been a beautiful challenge and a gift that I consider lucky to have, and figuring out the opportunities to leverage that in a very modern and quick changing world. So it's similar in many ways to the Rams, and yet very different in terms of the team, and that's why the brands are so important. That's why the clubs are so important as part of the National Football League, because they have a very different identity, and it's important, I think, to acknowledge them and then to allow for them to grow.
Makes sense.
How many marketers get the luxury of knowing that that brand will be there 100 years from now, and that you can have the patience and the runway to make all the right choices? Marketing is not about creative, squishy stuff anymore. It is about being the first line of emotional connectivity, and that sets the stage for everything else. And so we can be patient, we can be thoughtful. I don't see California breaking off into the ocean anytime soon.
Some people wish it would.
No,
but not me.
We need.
I live there.
We need SoFi. We all need SoFi.
I think that notion of needing to reinvent or evolve what your brand is perceived as and how you connect with your consumers, that transcends all industries. And that's absolutely true for Las Vegas as a destination, right? We've been known as we were known as the gaming capital of the world. It's all about gambling. And then we solidified ourselves as the entertainment capital of the world. And now we are actively working hard to reposition Las Vegas as the sports and entertainment capital of the world, bringing in, marquee global sporting events like the Super Bowl. We are honored to be able to host next year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas for the first time ever. We're so excited. But bringing in things like Formula One, NCAA Final Four, like we're landing these major marquee events, and we're so proud of it. But it's recognizing the fact that if we're going to grow our audience base, we need to identify what those segments are and what products are we evolving, what experiences are we evolving in providing to them to make them interested in us. So very much the way you guys are looking at how do you continue to evolve and create that relationship with your fans, we're doing that from a destination point of view too.
And if you have not previewed the Sphere, you have to. It is incredible. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be nuts. Also opening November later this year. But yes, the world's largest spherical building, completely immersive entertainment. So that's Vegas. Vegas is constantly reinventing and launching new products and new experiences. We are all about the in-person experience. So come on out if you haven't been out lately.
That's right. Lara, anything you would add to?
I would just say for fans, benefits of being on an NFL or having an NFL team or club is that people can wear the jerseys with people's names on the back. But what gets them to wear the hat, to me, is most important, because that says that the brand is everlasting. And LA in particular is such a crowded market. And people wear Dodgers hats all the time, and they don't even care anything about baseball. But what makes them put on a Rams hat, or what makes them put on a Chiefs hat? That means something more. Yeah, that's all.
Love that. So, Kate, I'm going to throw this to you. So, thinking about sports as entertainment and vice versa, there are many entertainment options in Vegas. What role do sports play in Vegas entertainment landscape? How do you segment and align to each experience? Like you mentioned, there's F1 gaming, Super Bowl shows. And how do you reach those folks in their early stages of planning so they know that, they need to come to Vegas versus Nashville if they're having, a bachelor party?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we are constantly looking at how do we reinvent ourselves, and sports is that next frontier for us. It's not just winning the bid and having Super Bowl in Las Vegas, or creating the right contract that's going to bring a Formula One to town. It's actually really partnering with the league level or with the team level to figure out what are those experiences beyond the ticketed event, and how do we make this completely memorable as the must-place bucket list to go to see your team play. So it's not just, I'm going to another game, but I'm going to see my team in Vegas. And so that's, again, where we partner with the teams, we partner with the leagues. We're a neutral territory. Yes, we've got the Raiders. Yes, we've got the Las Vegas Aces, WNBA team, but it is about, from us, from a destination point of view, creating this neutral territory because we want the visitor team to come in. We want them to have the best time of their lives. So a couple of very tangible examples and sort of thinking outside of the box. When we partnered with NFL to have the draft last year in Las Vegas, it was the first time it was in Vegas, we shut down Las Vegas Boulevard. That's like unprecedented. We completely shut it down so fans could walk around Las Vegas Boulevard. We placed a red carpet stage on top of the Bellagio fountains where they had their players walk across the fountains. The globally iconic Bellagio fountains, we shut them off to do this. And we renamed Las Vegas Boulevard to Draft Drive. We held a press conference with the NFL commissioner, with our governor, in the middle of Las Vegas Boulevard, and rehung the sign and called it Draft Drive for that whole week.
Wow.
So it's about how do you partner with the leagues, with the teams, whoever your partner is, and just think outside of the box, come up with these crazy experiences, because it's all about the fan, and it's all about what is their experience that's going to make them say, holy shit, or wow, and get them to want to come back and make it, so for us personally, the bucket list place to see your team.
And I love the other tagline you were talking about. We know all the
Yeah, so a lot of people know us as what happens here stays here. That's our iconic campaign for Las Vegas. We just recently launched, actually two, we just recently launched the greatest arena on earth, again, as part of our efforts to reposition ourselves as the sports and entertainment capital of the world. But if you're watching the Grammys, you probably saw a really fun spot with a dad reading to his son a book about broccoli. And at the end of the spot, it was really about, you could bring your kids to Vegas, but why would you? It's this notion of you deserve a break, come on out, come to Vegas, whatever it takes, leave your kids at home, come on out.
You need a break, that's true. So during this whole day or so, we talked a lot about sports betting and how that really creates that stickiness and just kind of the place to be and to kind of lean into it. So Lara, this is for you. Would you share with us what aha moments you have uncovered when looking at data from sports betting? And then how does this type of data help with building brand, filling the gaps that existed before this data, on building that national picture? and some of the things that folks, when we think about sports betting, we have like assumptions or preconceived notions. So tell us some of those ahas for you with this type of data.
Yeah, and we're in a unique situation. If you don't know or have never been to Kansas City, our stadium and our team is actually on the Missouri side, but you're right on the line with Kansas. So we have a unique situation where we have dueling states, I guess, if you want to say. So in Kansas, certain parts of betting are now legal, Missouri not. So we have a unique situation, which, creates opportunity. It also creates challenges, all of the things that come with it. But I think the thing that's been probably the most aha moment for us, and I think it goes back to the data conversation, and again, knowing motivations and who are our fans. We were having this conversation too, there's only ever 72,000 people that we can put at GHA Field at Arrowhead. Unless we built 12 on top, we're never going to be able to reach millions of people that we want to reach. And so as we've dug more into the data, and a lot of the stuff that the league is doing too, in terms of understanding the fans more, sports betting is a huge part of a way that fans are engaging with clubs, with players, with teams, with the league. What we're finding is that, parents are actually a huge part of those that are doing sports betting, fantasy, daily fantasy, things like that. Maybe it's just my preconceived notion and not in a negative way, but you perceive that those that are doing betting all the time, you might have whatever picture in your head is of who that person is, and it's just not true anymore, right? It's the way that fans are engaging with teams. And what we're finding is that, it is the way that we can, again, to Kat's point of, I hope that they still come to the stadium, but we're never going to be able to reach the millions that we want to reach. Sports betting can be a way to connect with them, to drive affinity, avidity, and also just, again, find the different ways in that they might want to come into the family, as we say. So I think that has probably been the most aha moment. Obviously, lots to still unlock on our side, but it really does, I think, change the landscape in terms of it's not just the season, right? Also, people are engaging with sports and betting year round, and we as a club and a league need to be thinking about fandom year round. So it really becomes a lever that we can start to hopefully pull.
Very good. So Kat, actually, this dovetails a little bit to the next question on the idea of how do you allow the fan to self-select on how they engage with you. So fans are no longer tied to coming to the stadium or sitting on the couch and connecting with the NFL experience. What insights do you leverage to determine the various fan journeys and allowing them to self-select what works for them?
I think it is about ensuring that you do have a portfolio of content. Content is, content and social sit at the forefront of the best data signals that your fan can give you about what they're actually interested in. If they come in and they sit through 15-minute long form on Kenny Washington, then you know that there's an entire treasure trove of history that we have to share, a treasure trove of community service that we do 365. That is how we show up in the community. We just can't tell that story every day. But as we learn more about that two-way relationship with our fans, we can continue to serve them, give them options, and then introduce them. I think a lot of people think about merchandising. It feels a little exploitative to think of it that way, but it really is about, here's a portfolio of who we are. Come join us. Come interact. Come engage. Give us feedback. Our fan council has been an extraordinary wealth, and a lot of, I think, having not been in the market yet a decade, or back in the market yet a decade, reestablishing rituals and traditions. There's so many different ways that fans can put their own stamp on things, and I think a lot of that is a modern approach is to allow them to co-create it rather than to shove it down their throats and say, this is who we are, you're in or you're out. And I do think it's why we think values forward about that journey. And certainly giving people of all ages, right? You know that generation to generation, some are much more like, are you mission oriented? Do you have a mission? Am I going to be able to support a cause? And so I think there's options, and giving fans optionality, I think, is part of modern day expectations.
Makes sense. Lara, would you add anything on that front?
I mean, I would just build on like what you can actually do in the community.
Okay.
And are there actual things you can do to engage with the brand outside of the stadium? And the Rams do a lot of that. I'm sure the Chiefs do too. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So this question, as sports brands transcend and grow beyond their city and the U.S. and become or have become global in a lot of cases, how do you nurture fandom abroad? So maybe Lara, will go with you first, and then Kat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, I joined a year and a half ago, and on my first day, that was really the first kind of order of business was that we were going to be bidding as part of the league's HMA International Marketing Program. It's something that is very important to us, very important to Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan, and we went ahead and bid on Germany and Mexico and were awarded it. It has been an amazing year and a half now of doing it. We were awarded the rights in January, like many other clubs in their markets. But to see the fan growing, it's pretty remarkable, but it also, I think, has allowed for us to, all the things we've been talking about, thinking different, they have to be put in action when you are trying to grow a brand in Germany, right? We will be bringing a game this season, which is exciting, but we don't have the luxury of having a game every Sunday or Thursday or Monday night, right? So you have to find, it really then goes much more on the marketing and the brand to say, how are you going to connect with individuals when the game's sometimes at midnight or 2 a.m. for Super Bowl, for example. So it's really become much more of a, what does the brand stand for? How are we building advocates through influencers in the market? How do we think about media relationships? How do we think about flag and our youth programming? What does community matter the same in Germany as it does in Kansas City? It's important to us. Is it important to them? So it's really been an exciting few months. I think certainly a huge opportunity. And you realize, though, while different, again, fans are just looking to be part of a community connection. So the pillars of who you are will resonate. It's just the tactics may look a little bit different. And I think it allows for, at least for the Chiefs, us to use a different levers and different energy than we may not need to do in Kansas City.
Kat, anything you would add? And then we have to wrap up.
I would build on it really quickly. I mean, I think for us, there's natural extensions to the extent that it feels very organic. Obviously, in LA, very, very dominant Latinx population. Mexico, natural extension. Vamos Rams, it's already largely geared towards that Latinx audience. Bring it down to Mexico. Shocker, works. Continues to grow. It gives us more optionality as we also think about the different ways that the Rams are a global brand. We are not an LA brand, right? As a benefit of sitting under the shield, we can take that game anywhere, but it also is about meeting the content and the needs of the market itself. So when you're thinking about Australia, you think about punters, you think about footy, you think about rugby, you think about football, and the convergence of that passion and how you galvanize that for shared growth. And I think that there's been such an appetite to partner cross sports teams and understand that you're meeting your fans where they are, and that you're serving their agenda as they pull, not as you push.
Perfect. Well, so we're now going to go to drink soon, so hopefully you all will find us and ask more questions. So thank you. I'm kind of awestruck to be part of such a panel with such amazing, powerful female leaders, so shout out to all of you. So look forward to
Big round of applause. Thank you. Love it.